Hey, welcome to one of my favorite parts of TWIRx This Week in Pharmacy is our feature interview. And we always want to pick out people who are, I don't necessarily want to say veterans. It's certainly not from an age perspective. It's more of an experience, but I I don't understand the shifting mysteries of DSCSA. And I always look to our network, and my network is, I'm so blessed. I have so many people in our network that I can literally go to LinkedIn and put in a keyword and find one of you out there who I'm connected with to dive into different subjects. And on This Week in Pharmacy, we are going to be concentrating on the DSCSA, and that is understanding it, understanding DSCSA and the road in 2026. And navigating this with me is my featured guest. I'm so excited to welcome Johny Kello. He's the CEO of MatchRX, an old friend of mine. I keep saying old and veteran. Johny, does that make you feel old if I say veteran or old?
I'm both right now after being 20 years in this business and knowing you for almost that long. But I appreciate you having us on the show, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
Me as well. Another one of my friends and somebody I look up to and giving us some guidance, and a Pharmacy 50 Most Influential Award winner, Dr. Ilisa Bernstein of RX Solutions. I'm so excited to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me just say, I'm very impressed. You keep repeating DSCSA correctly, which is you've got this. So I'm excited to talk to you about this.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, but let me tell you that in pharmacogenomics and hyperlipidemia, hard words. Like there's still the nabs that I cannot say. There's like six medications out there that's like ends in nab, and I cannot say them to save my life. So please don't get into any of the nabs, Dr. Bernstein.
I will not because I can't either.
All right, we are jumping into this, and we're pretty excited because the DSCSA, the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, it has changed over the last 3 or 4 years, over and over again. Different dates and different compliance, and things are changing, and they're adding things to it. So once again, it's so exciting to have you both here to really help pharmacists to understand DSCSA, where we're at and why it matters. And then we're going to clarify 2026 enforcement of the timeline as well as key milestones and provide practical steps for our independent pharmacy owners and pharmacy businesses to prepare. And how are we going to highlight and collaborate between different platforms and how MatchRX kind of brings that all together? So I'm going to kick this off right out over to you, Johny. And just in case, I don't see how this is the case, but just in case our listener hasn't heard of MatchRX, would you tell us a little bit about MatchRX and the position? And then we have lots of questions.
Sure. Well, let's start with the genesis of MatchRX. My partner, who is a gentleman named Gabe Zoeda, is a pharmacist. His parents are both pharmacists, and I want to say, five of his siblings are pharmacists as well, along with two of his boys are in pharmacy school. So it's obviously a family of pharmacy. And Gabe came to me with the idea of the challenge of independent pharmacies with overstock. This was back in about 2008, and over a year and a half to 2 year period, we put together a great team to form MatchRX. And we started with 3 pharmacies. Now we're at around about 7,000 plus pharmacies across 35 states. And we had the good fortune early during which was the DQSA, if everybody remembers that acronym, of being introduced to the FDA, and the table, or rather the roundtable discussions that we were having. And we had an opportunity to meet Ilisa, who was heading that whole process up. And she kind of looked at us with a little bit of skepticism at first, but we kind of walked her through what we were doing, the safeguards that we were putting into place, and as you know, continue to put into place. And we'll talk about some of those later. But I think we got the FDA comfortable with what the challenge was for independent pharmacies and how they could help allowing products to be, transferred from one to the other with as much transparency as needed to make it a safe environment for patients.
That's a great way to start because this does lead me to Ilisa, and that is, you've been in pharmacy for some time to really dig down into what matters, the grassroots of actually running operations, and then you tied your experiences into several organizations, including the APHA, to really bring it full circle. And now with your leadership in compliancy and guidance, give us a little overview of what you've been doing and how you're tied into demystifying the DSCSA.
Yeah, no, it's so, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a lawyer. My entire career, I've been combining the pharmacy and law and when I was at FDA, for my 31 years, it was all about regulatory compliance and enforcement and policy. And supply chain was always, making sure that the drugs that patients get at the pharmacy are genuine, accurate, not illegitimate and not counterfeit, has always been something that is an area that I've been focusing on throughout my entire career. So now what I'm doing not only is focusing on helping further secure our supply chain, but I'm doing and working on a whole bunch of other issues related to pharmacy and drug regulations. Actually, I'd like to say that I have a patient safety hat on, and my goal is to make sure that patients are getting safe and high quality products.
Excellent.
So instead of this headphone thing that I know that the listeners can't see, but it's a nice little patient safety hat.
You look official. You look like a station on a radio show. As we aspire to be TWIRx on Sirius XM or something like that someday. All right, so we are going to dive into this. And, when I think of my friends and people that I've served and tours of pharmacies, it's complex. It's juggling a lot. It's patient care, inventory, compliance that drills down to the whole meaning of what it means to be a pharmacist, and that's keeping people safe. That ties right into what we're going to be talking about today. So, Johny, before we bring our guests into this, I want to understand from your perspective, why is DSCSA such a big deal right now?
Well, it's been a big deal since 2013, if one goes back to that. And finally, after many cans being kicked down the road, it's finally being implemented in the right way. It's been vetted, I think, at every level from manufacturer to wholesaler, and now finally reaching the pharmacy level, which I think is probably the most important one, as that's the last, handoff before the patient receives the product. And so implementing this component of the DSCSA before 2026, November of 26, is, I think, again, the most critical piece. And so we've been getting ahead of this for, I can't tell you how many years we've been working towards this point in time. And so why is it important? It's the answer is obvious. It's for patient safety, and then creating the transparency and the goal of what DQSA and now DSCSA is all about is, having the confidence that what you're receiving at the end of the day is what you're expected to, is what was prescribed to you.
This is why you have chosen, I can't think of a better person to be wingmanning right now, us in this discussion. Someone who has, just like Dr. Bernstein said, over 30 years with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and how that body and in our federal government really looked out for safety. So it's safety on top of safety on top of safety. And with that, I just want to ask Dr. Bernstein, just start by kind of explaining in simple terms, DSCSA, and what are we trying to achieve at this point?
Yeah, so let me just start by saying, so what is DSCSA? Drug Supply Chain Security Act. But DSCSA does roll off the tongue a little bit easier. So it's intended to bring more transparency and accountability into our nation's drug supply. Quite Simply, it's knowing who is participating in the drug transactions and supply in our supply chain and what's in our supply chain. So only authorized trading partners can be involved. The product is actually specific products. There's a license plate on each. And each package, and what I like to say is actually it's keeping the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. So knowing what's good and being able to keep that bad stuff out. And just what DSCSA does is it modernizes a law that was passed in 1997 that never worked. It was a paper pedigree law. Paper pedigrees were easily forged, and counterfeits got into the supply chain. So in 2013, when DSCSA passed, it created an electronic interoperable system so that you can really benefit from how technology was available then and where technology would be available now.
That's a really good way to kick us off into this, because when I go to our national conferences and I'm talking with pharmacy owners, I ask them where they are with it. And, 75% of them are like, hey, I look to my compliance officer or my compliance, team or an outsourced organization. So why was full enforcement extended to November 27th? I think it's 2026. And what should pharmacies be doing right now?
Yeah, so as designed, as I said, it was a 10-year law. It passed in 2013 and was intended to flip the switch in 2013 for fully electronic. But it actually evolved, the requirements evolved over the years. So first, information was exchanged as paper, then electronically, and only the lot number of the package was on that paper. Then license plates were put on the packages, each package. So that was a product identifier. So then you can distinguish one package from another. Then those license plate numbers were added to the electronic information. So you can easily exchange data specific to that package. And so this is where then the hangup happened. So you have all these license plates, you have information that's on that's going to be exchanged, but the wholesalers, the manufacturers, and dispensers' databases had to communicate with one another to be interoperable, to be able to accept that license plate information. And the supply chain just wasn't ready by November 2020 in 2023. So FDA said, all right, we're going to give you another year. Everybody stabilize your systems, work with your trading partners, make it happen. That didn't work. So then FDA said, all right, and this is what industry wanted all along, is let's focus manufacturers and wholesalers. You become compliant and you figure it out. Then wholesalers, you turn downstream and you work with your dispensers and you figure it out and be interoperable. So that's why it was a staggered approach. And so where we are next week actually is a big milestone for many dispensers. And that is for dispensers that have 26 or greater pharmacists or technicians. They have to comply by November 27th of next week, of actually 2025, which is next week. For dispensers with 25 or less, they still have another year to go. And let me just say, because if you're a dispenser that has 26 or more, and you think that you can go to FDA and say, I need an exemption, give me an exemption, I'm not ready, it's too late. You just need to focus on complying in the next week.
I think back to Johny, and I have had several conversations over the years with an online marketplace that has to be up to date and has to be compliant as he moves forward, almost like just keep moving the goalpost. And I know that there's been frustration in the markets and in our compliance teams. But Johny, from an organization that's bringing massive amounts of data into your systems, how does this impact you and your clients and our clients per se, because these are independent community pharmacies?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, we've been waiting for this to arrive for some time now, and we've been preparing for it for some time now. So in the near future, and it'll be obviously well before November of 2026. As a matter of fact, it'll be soon into the first quarter of this coming year. We'll have the ability for each product to be scanned, have an identifier, the serialization number, verified against the VRS system, and making sure that that's a valid product within the ecosystem. And so for us, it really eliminates a lot of the other checks and balances that we currently have in place, limiting how much you can post on our site, what you can buy, what you can't buy, what you can sell. This allows us to really get granular on saying each product that's going to be on the MatchRX platform will have gone through a verification system, which is part of the global system, EPSIS, and so you'll be able to actually understand that that product has been validated, that we know who the manufacturer is, we know who the wholesaler is, and that selling pharmacy is the last connector to that buying pharmacy. And so we're going to live in the middle of that seller and buyer. But we're now where we didn't have we would have to go through all these checks and balances. We don't have to do that anymore with the VRS system. It's going to validate that it was brought in through a valid manufacturer and a valid wholesaler.
Johny, thank you for that. It brings me back, as you were talking, something that Ilisa was talking about, the difference between our independent community pharmacies and then these large chains who do have more than 25 pharmacists on staff. So Ilisa, what does traceability look like at the pharmacy level specifically?
Well, every pharmacy is going to implement it differently. But in some ways, it's no different than what they're doing now in ensuring that they're reconciling what they get from their wholesalers, what they ordered and what they paid for, and if anything's missing. I mean, they do that now. And what this transaction information will actually help with that reconciliation. But the difference is under the law, under DSCSA, you cannot accept ownership of the product unless you have the transaction information for that product. That's a key part of the law. And so DSCSA reconciliation ensures that the product matches the data, and that must be done before the product is put on the shelf. So right now it's kind of done either in your distribution warehouse if you're a big pharmacy, or if you're an independent, it's done at the back door when it comes in. And so it's not just looking at, do I have the product, but do I have the data? And the other thing that it's going to look at differently at the pharmacy level is if you think that you have a suspect product, you need to verify the product identifier with the manufacturer. NABP and others have a tool to verify, or using some solution provider that has access to be able to verify. So there are new steps that need to be taken at that pharmacy level. But again, it's not as much a heavy lift. It's the behind the scenes infrastructure that's needed. That's more of the heavy lift.
Yeah, and just to add to that, on the pharmacy level, your pharmacy is going to be required to have an SOP on how to handle a suspect product. So, for example, if you receive something that's suspect, you will file a 3911, and then you'll have to quarantine that product, wait for a assessment from the FDA, which you'll get generally, I think, within 2 business days. Elisa, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then a decision will be made. So it's not like you're going to be hung out there to dry. There's a process that's going to be taking place here that's really a quick turnaround, and you have to make sure that you're implementing SOPs, and part of the compliance piece of this whole equation is, as a pharmacy, you need to have the SOP and follow that SOP. And that's, I think, an area that we will be able to help down the road as well with the independents. So again, it's not as simple as, hey, I've got something that's suspect, or I don't need that until I have an audit. No, you're going to need all these tools well before November of 26, because when that moment arrives, just like Ilisa just said, FDA isn't going to say, "Oh, it's okay." They're going to say, "No, you were supposed to be ready for this, and you have to have a plan." Throw in the fact that the state boards will be following suit as well, and so if you've got a plan and you've got a way to make sure to handle these situations, you're going to be okay. There's nothing wrong with, not nothing wrong with, you don't want to receive suspect product, but at least now you have a tool and a process to handle it and report it. And it's not like you're getting in trouble. It's a process though that helps, keep the supply chain safe. And so that's why I think part of the reason we're having this discussion today in November of 25 is, in our instance, I would say 99% of our members are 25 or less, at their pharmacy, because they're primarily small independents. And, but that doesn't mean you wait till, September of 26. It's really getting ready, starting in the first quarter of 26, so that when you are up and running and before November of 2026 arrives, it's just part of your everyday business. There's no guessing anymore. It'll be just something like what you do today. You receive an order, it'll be scanned in, it'll be processed, and now it just becomes part of your process of receiving and dispensing.
John, Todd, can I just jump in here? Because Johnny, you are totally speaking my language with my FDA hat on. SOPs and having processes are so important, because if a state inspector or investigator or an FDA investigator comes knocking at your door, one of the first things that they're going to ask for is, show me your SOPs, show me you've trained your staff on your SOPs, show me how you're implementing them, and then go and actually documenting that you've trained and have and implemented them and how you're doing it. That is so important, because if you can't show that, they're going to dig deeper. And whenever they dig deeper, they're going to find something, even if you don't think that you have something. So I fully agree with what you said. And for the most part, actually not for the most part, for the part anyway, is that because DSCSA has been iterative over the years, you don't just start with your SOPs now. You should have had them. And so don't wait until 2026. If you realize you don't have them now, get started, get those in place.
Yep. Yep. And by the way, you don't have to go at it alone. There are third-party providers out there. Look, I don't think anybody's expecting an independent pharmacy to produce SOPs, on their own. And some of them, I'm sure, absolutely can, but that's not the point. There's certain processes and procedures to handling SOP. So there are resources out there, and I'm sure, I know we can help you identify some of them. But I think it's important that you do have a little bit of a runway now. Use it. Don't wait. This isn't like, December 24th and you're shopping for your wife at Christmas. You got to be ready now, and then make sure that it just becomes part of your everyday workload.
Johnny, that's why they invented Amazon, because you only have time to get it delivered. 23rd in right present.
Funny.
Hey, backing up, Ilisa, you said something, and it immediately flashed a red light in my head, where I'm thinking, hey, if I'm a pharmacy owner and I just heard Dr. Bernstein talk about, from the hat of an FDA, let's take advantage of this opportunity right now. What does a DSCSA audit, what does that involve?
Oh, that's a really good question, because you may get an audit or an inspection, whether it's an inspection, investigation, audit, whatever you call it. It's somebody is either knocking on your door, or you're paying someone to come in and audit, because so you can go through the motions before the officials come knocking on your door. But a lot of it is having just what I said, being able to show your SOPs, that your personnel and your staff know what they are, and that it's also interesting what I've noticed in the states is so many of the states have already created these self-inspection forms so that the pharmacies actually have to fill out a form and do their own self-inspection and send it into the state related to DSCSA. So, knowing what your state is going to expect is really important, and whether or not they expect you to provide the data or if they're going to come knocking on your door, what are they going to look at? But the states are responsible just as much as on the federal level.
Johny, I'm also going to back up to you because you started talking about making it seem very simplistic that we have access to everything through all the systems that we're connected with. And I can't help but to think the nightmares that I lived when I was selling pharmacy management system software 15 years ago, where you needed APIs, you needed program to program and application to application connections to make things flow. So I'm not logging into 27 different systems just to get one answer, and I'm scrambling to serve my customers, and it's just a headache. And we've reached a point in time where we're seeing less and less of that with integration. So let's talk about the systems in place to kind of bolt into this hub of MatchRX and how platforms like MatchRX and like our pharmacy management systems help to facilitate compliance.
Yeah. Well, so without getting too far ahead of ourselves, we are connecting with one of the providers regarding DSCSA and the compliance regarding DSCSA. We're about to push that off probably, well, not probably, but sometime in that first quarter of 26. But whether it's the group that we're dealing with or another group, it doesn't really matter. I think it's important that folks don't realize that it's not enough just to have the access to your wholesaler and request an EPSIS file during an audit process. This is a full integration, and what you're going to pay for, and I think it's nominal relative to the headache and the savings and the time that it'll save you when an audit does occur, whether it's through a PBM or through a state audit. It doesn't matter. I think, like everything else, when you bring on these kinds of requirements across the board, then there's going to be services out there that are going to help you expedite and make it much more seamless. So yes, you could take it on your own, but then it just adds more work to something that you don't need to be a professional on. What you need to do is bring on a professional or professional system that you can bring in and integrate with your platform, with your existing software, which there's probably about a handful of groups out there that are offering their service. So I would say pick a horse and one that you think you're comfortable with, but pick one and use that group to really keep you easy and safe at night. Because what you don't want to do is try to go at this alone, and all of a sudden there's an audit, and now you're making all these requests from your wholesaler or wholesalers or other folks, and it just becomes a nightmare. And I would argue that the DSCSA and the forcing pharmacies into this there's going to be a light, the flip side of like being the positive, which is that it'll be much more organized for you as a user of a platform that can access a lot of these records that you currently have to, go out and find on your own.
That's a good point. Ilisa, I did want to, for the listeners' sake, the pharmacy owners that are listening right now, can you give us like one example of early adopters and maybe a lesson that you learned, because the ball has been punted how many times over the last 3-4 years of how many different time stamps that we've been like, okay, it's extended. So talk to us about the early adopters and the lesson that you learned through this.
Yeah, I mean, so we're beyond the early adopter phase. So there are a lot of lessons learned because now it's what is it, the lagging phase? If you're too late, I can't remember how it's called. There's the early and the lagging. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, what I've seen and heard is that it takes a while to get onboarded with a solution provider. And so a pharmacy, if you use one wholesaler specifically, you can rely on their portal, right? But many pharmacies use other wholesalers. They may have a primary, but they'll be using others. And so that means that they need to be able to get the data quickly. And that's why relying on a solution provider is important because they can put all the information in one place. And I think that's one of the things that at least we've seen over time is that finding the right solution provider makes sense, and it takes a while to get them on board because there are going to be hiccups and you need to work through those hiccups. And you may think that you can get that done, in a week, but sometimes that takes months to integrate with your systems that you have in place because pharmacists are busy. They don't want anything to slow down workflow. Anything that it has to be incorporated that's really seamless. So I think that's the key and also is in terms of a piece of advice is to shop around and do the due diligence to make sure that you're finding the right fit for you. Because, as Johny said, there are a lot out there, but some of them are offering bells and whistles that you don't really need. So ask around, see what other pharmacies are doing, and and really kind of find out what might work best for you given your own situation, because it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, and just let me add to that too, Todd. Good points, Elisa. Timing, right? Because November is going to creep up on us faster than you think. I'm talking about November 2026, that what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait till September where everybody realizes they're late and they're all trying to, identify that solution provider, adopt it into their system. And now those solution providers are going to get overwhelmed. You're going to have a lot less of a chance to get like the best opportunity to learn if you've got everybody, trying to onboard at the same time or near that same time. So again, it's really important that you get ahead of the game for multiple reasons. One is that you're not fighting the crowd later in the year, and also, having it up and operating, because to Elisa's point, it's not going to be a flip of the switch. It could be a week, it'd be 2 weeks. It takes time. It takes people go away. It's just, nothing happens as fast as we'd like. And so be prepared and get way ahead of it. That's I know I sound like a broken record on that, but it's really important that people get ahead of this because it's not going to happen overnight, and you can't wait when everybody else is trying to, get into the store, so to speak.
This is a PSA for all pharmacy operators and owners. Do not treat this the way Todd Uri treats his taxes, where April 15th and he waits until April 13th to do it. Like, that's just my
that's a good Darth Vader interpretation too.
Don't wait. There's so many people. There's your wholesaler people. There's the compliance officers. There's MatchRX. There's consultancy organizations. This has been just a time to update. Thank you so much. This is more than just compliance. This is credibility. This is trust. This is patient safety. The number one reason for the existence of a pharmacist in our healthcare ecosystem is patient safety. This plugs right into that. Johny, this has been an amazing conversation. Dr. Bernstein, thank you so much for coming back to the Pharmacy Podcast Network here on This Week in Pharmacy. We have to have you back. Want you back faster than however long it's been. It's probably been years. And
it has been, yes.
Slips into the future. We should play a song like that if they'd allow us the rights to it. But Thank you both so much for being part of today's TWIRx and digging down in and demystifying the DSCSA. Johny, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Ilisa.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to This Week in Pharmacy. And remember that compliance doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be scary. When you've got the right partners in place, check out MatchRX at MatchRX.com, helping independent pharmacies stay connected, compliant, and confident. Stay tuned. We will be right back with more TWIRx.
Feeling lost with the complexities of pharmacy accounting?
In pharmacy today, there's so many different, variables and issues that impact the pharmacy books, records, accounting, the profitability of the store, so forth. There's different components of pharmacy that have its own nuances from an accounting standpoint. And so it's tricky. There's no doubt about it.
Ready to take your pharmacy to the next level but don't know where to start? Sykes & Company is here to help. Introducing the RX Assessment. With the RX Assessment, the pharmacy CPAs and advisors at Sykes will do a deep dive into your accounting and tax situation and give you the action steps you need to take your pharmacy to the next level.
If you're interested in, working with a team who understands the industry and how the accounting and tax should really be in a pharmacy, this is your chance to get a under the hood check of what's going on and getting the feedback of any issues or concerns or, again, things we think you're doing really well with.
Get the financial checkup your pharmacy needs and head over to sykes-cpa.com or call 252-482-7644.
Johny Kello, CEO of MatchRX, will be joining us today. I can't wait for the listeners to hear the passion in this man's voice for building systems that help our independent community pharmacies thrive. And you're going to be interested in understanding what that platform does, but we're going to be digging into DSCSA and the importance of that compliance and what that means to you as a pharmacy and pharmacist. We're talking with Jordan Nordy, Dr. Jordan Nordy, PharmD, and she has an MBA. She's an entrepreneur. She's going places. She's so young. She's crazy energetic and has so much clinical forward thinking. I can't wait for you to hear this interview. And then Dr. Myra Ahmad. She is the founder and CEO of Mochi Health. That's a big deal. We're going to do TWIRx news, but we'll be right back. Hey there, Todd Uri here, founder of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, here on TWIRx in the works, TWIRx in the works. And it's November 21st, 2025. I hope you've had a tremendously good week. I hope you're gearing up for Thanksgiving time to wind down, spend time with your family, and eat lots of meats. At least that's what I'm going to eat, lots of meats. I'm on a keto-ish, I don't know if that's even a thing, but kind of keto diet where low carbs is as low as I can get them. And I'm going to do it until the new year and see what happens. Been doing it a while, and guess what? It's working. And I'm paying attention to other nutrition just to let you know it's not just, that's where the keto light comes in, because I'm eating some of these vegetables. They got carbs in them. Didn't realize that. This week in pharmacy, we're going to be talking about understanding the DSCSA and what that means to the road towards 2026, and what that means to chain pharmacies right now, which was just this week in pharmacy that has hit. But we are going to do some TWIRx news. Everybody loves the TWIRx news, I know. Thank you. Settle down. Settle down. All right. Well, TWIRx news. I am excited about what's going on in our industry, but there are still things happening, obviously, in our country that is disheartening and hopeful, and bunch of things going on. But just today, they announced that Fruth, say that fast, Fruth Pharmacy out is being acquired by Walgreens. And you know, to me, as someone who likes to see our privately independent pharmacies thrive and grow as much as possible to support communities, if someone had to acquire them at this stage of the game, I'm glad it was Walgreens. And we've had some Walgreens pharmacists work with us on much of what's happening in the entire market of pharmacy. Shout out to Shane Gerritsen, or Shane Jerominski, who is heading up unionizing so many pharmacy sectors and regions throughout the country. And I was just wanting to be more supportive of people like Shane, and we've worked well together over the years. But I'm glad that Fruth, the number one thing that I'm glad about this is that we are keeping pharmacy open, just in general, and that people have access to a pharmacy. In some places, you cannot get to a physician for miles and miles, if you can even get in because of scheduling. Point Pleasant, West Virginia is out there, and Fruth is a healthcare giant and provider out there. And I'm glad that they're being acquired by Walgreens to keep them going. Hey, next up in TWIRx news, the University of North Carolina School of Pharmacy postgraduate one-year program marks a 25-year celebration. This is crazy, amazing. And by the way, that's why I said Shane Gerritsen in the beginning of the show, because I was thinking of my friend, Dr. Shane Gerritsen, who has been on the Pharmacy podcast for years back. And he's gotten busy, got married, had a baby, like life's coming down. But it's so fun to watch these P2s and P3s, and now I'm seeing them. They're practicing pharmacy. Some of them have been in the network. Some of them have podcasted back when they were just students, and now to see them growing, that's pretty cool. But a shout out to Shane, and a shout out to this community-based pharmacy residency program marking its 25th year, and how this is absolutely huge. You have to think of the impact of what this means for public health, especially at this stage. We just got done saying about the issues around pharmacy deserts, and how they've trained 163 residents now who serve in community pharmacies across North Carolina, with 95% of those Americans living within 5 miles of a pharmacy. The program emphasizes the critical role of community pharmacists in rural and undeserved areas. And that news came out of Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill's blog or news section. I don't know if 95% of Americans are living within a 5-mile radius of a pharmacy anymore. I don't know. I would like to see some updated data on that, because I think since the closing of Rite Aid, I think we have seen some major issues with health access, healthcare access, and in pharmacy access. Next up in TWIRx news, we get this from those nerdy girls, and the title is From Civil Rights Hubs to Pharmacy Deserts, What Pharmacy Closures Mean and How You Can Take Action. This is by Mackenzie, or known as Kenzie Isaac, and Daphne Berryhill, pharmacist, badass pharmacist. I tell you what, this plays right into our story. This plays right into what we talk about a lot here on TWIRx. And, there's an opportunity, and I love the commentary from those nerdy girls. They're drawing attention to the growing crisis of pharmacy deserts, areas lacking access to pharmacies, links closures of independent and chain pharmacies, nearly 1 in 3 since 2010. with inequalities in care for rural, Black, Latino majority neighborhoods. The piece calls for PBM reform, policy action, and community engagement to preserve pharmacy access from thosenerdygirls.org. Once again, thosenerdygirls.org. Wonderful piece. Thanks for writing it. And this just is a shout out to you as a pharmacist. I don't care what sector you're in. Pay attention in your community where you see services needed most in those rural areas, in areas that you know that Rite Aid has closed down, in areas where your independent community pharmacy has closed down. You're part of you're listening right now, or you are part of the solution. So reach out if you know that there's an area of your community that is suffering with lack of pharmacy access. Please reach out to your state representative, the one that's assigned to your district. Tell them that story. Send them these pieces. I'm going to have all of this news in our show notes. You can send them all three of these. Every single today's TWIRx plays into that same thing. We have Fruth Pharmacy being acquired by Walgreens. Thank goodness that someone at least picked that up. But it shows what's happening in insurance reform and PBM reform, and what wave it has had in decimating access to pharmacy care. Then we have our UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy, their postgraduate one-year program, 25 years doing it, 163 residents who now are tied into serving community pharmacies across North Carolina. That's big. And then shout out again to Nerdy Girls, and just talking about pharmacy deserts and how that's linked to minorities in majority area neighborhoods where they just don't have access to health care now. What the heck would you do if you couldn't get Tylenol or a baby aspirin or some kind of pain cream, or just access to your prescriptions? And just makes me feel crazy. But all right, we have a lot going on today. This is going to be a great show. I'm excited for you to hear this. Johny Kello's coming in. We're going to be talking with Ilisa Bernstein. Dr. Bernstein is a rock star pharmacist. She was with the FDA. She was with the APHA. She's a hero to me. This woman is dynamic. She's coming on to talk to you about the DSCSA with Johny, with MatchRX. It's going to be great. And then we're going to be talking to Dr. Jordan Nordy, PharmD, MBA, forward thinker, entrepreneur. You're not going to want to miss this episode and this opportunity to learn more about Jordan. And then a shout out to Dr. Myra Ahmad, founder of Mochi Health, and what this means for innovating telehealth. She's been doing it since 2022. She's working with physicians, dietitians, pharmacists, behavioral health. This is an exciting model. I'm excited to share all of this with you on TWIRx. TWIRx in the works. Here's what we're going to do. We do want to talk to you about the Pharmacy 50. The Pharmacy 50 is happening right now. If you're listening, please go to pharmacy50.us. That's pharmacy50.us. And if that doesn't work, because there have been DNS issues with our landing page, then in the show notes here, there's going to be the voting link so that you can vote for your Pharmacy 50. And what Pharmacy 50 does, this awards the 50 most influential people in pharmacy. This is our 4th year of the awards. And the first was covering 2021 and 2022, or 2022 and 23. I'm losing track. But we are focused on showing admiration and raising up people by their peers who have been voted into this prestigious awards. This is this will be our 4th alumni. These people that we've had in the last 3 years are just shaking up our industry. Some of the people that are part of the transformation of our entire profession have been listed on this awards because it's coming from you. It's coming from the profession. You're the ones that are voting for these people. You want to show them that they mean something. And I want new names. I want you to bring in people that you know that are working in community, or they're working with your seniors, or they're working in diabetes. They're working in technology. They have something to share about AI, something that's making a major impact. Pharmacists are moving healthcare forward. That's what this whole platform is all about, is moving you forward, amplifying you. This Week in Pharmacy, today's This Week in Pharmacy is dedicated to our Pharmacy 50 award winners over the years. A shout out to all of you. You're not going to want to miss all of this and more coming up on TWIRx. TWIRx in the works. But before that, a little message from our sponsor, please.
As frontline healthcare providers, pharmacists like you understand the importance of personalized care, especially in acute pain management. Ural Pharma is dedicated to providing high-quality, generic products tailored to meet your patient's needs. The company aims to serve a diverse range of patient populations, including athletes recovering from intense training, weekend warriors managing minor injuries, and those seeking a practical and mess-free option for acute pain management. Keep Ural in your toolbox of pain management options and join the ranks of pharmacists leading the way in personalized care. To learn more about Ural Pharma and its products, including full prescribing information, boxed warnings, and important safety information, visit uralpharma.com. That's YARAL pharma.com and connect with them on LinkedIn.
Hey, welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy. Thanks for being here. Always appreciate the comments that we're getting on social media. Follow us on any of your podcast platforms, obviously. Also, we're doing really well in connecting with you on Instagram, and I love following your content. Everybody that links up with us, we're not only following, but we're pushing your content out because it's you that's making a difference. It's the pharmacist, it's the aggressive pharmacy students out there who have great ideas, the future of our profession, and then the businesses that we're working with. So don't forget to use your social media as communications to our network, and let's do more together. Hey, I'm excited about today's featured guest. I met Dr. Jordan Nordy, PharmD and MBA, by the way, a rock star already on LinkedIn, and I want to welcome her to TWIRx. I don't know if I'll make you TWIRx, Dr. Nordy, or not, but I guess we could TWIRx a little bit. I can't do it. I have a white, skinny white butt, and it's not gonna do any TWIRxing, but I do things in my chair.
There you go. The chair works really well. If it makes you feel any better, I can't either. So all good.
Well, at least we're in the same boat. Well, welcome to TWIRx. So you really impressed me. I went to your LinkedIn and seeing how active you are. You don't sit still. You have enough experience in your professional realm after pharmacy school where you're starting to really dial in to things that are lighting your mind on fire and the creativity that's coming out of you and leveraging your PharmD, as we were talking about. And then you put your MBA up on top of that. And I'm blown away to say the least. So share a little bit of your story and background with our listeners.
Yeah, so I'll start in pharmacy school. I got freshman year to my undergraduate classes. We're getting started and Mike Brown happens. And it's like one of the craziest things I think I've ever experienced. It really spearheaded a lot of just really looking at disparities in our community, looking at the differences between how one group of people may be treated versus another. And as I matriculated through my schooling, I started to really look at how different everything was. And so I made a point to join our BSA. I helped found our campus Black Student Alliance. We were doing a lot of outreach within that community. As I fast forwarded, I believe it was my senior year. I think it was like my first year of pharmacy school, ended up being president-elect, and then following that year, president of the National Community Pharmacists Association. Thought I wanted to own my own pharmacy in order to just bring our community into those spaces, make sure they had an understanding of what does it look like to be well? What does it mean to take medications? Why is it so important that I take it as prescribed? All of those things. I did a few internships, decided that wasn't the lane for me. And then post-grad, I was able to work at a federally qualified health center that allowed me to be a clinical pharmacist right out of school, which is almost unheard of. Very, very grateful for that opportunity. I had retail experience, and then a couple of days a week, I would be in clinic working with chronic diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, pain management. And what I saw was not only the clinic itself, there was a specific demographic that we were focused on, but even within my own chronic disease clinics, I could really see just the differences in the populations of people that I was working with. And one thing that I'm always very grateful for is I learned how important it is for me to be myself in those spaces, because I got buy-in and connection because they were able to say, oh, is that all that means? I think that's one of my superpowers. I'm able to take this big complex information and just break it down and say, hey, this is actually all that means. And here's what we're going to do about it. And do you agree? And they'll say yes, or they'll say no, and then they'll come back and they'll be like, all right, I'll try again. So just really being able to connect with the patient on a deeper level and see them go from poor health outcomes to good health outcomes, and their excitement behind that has always just driven me in this space, and wanting to just continue that as I've gone through my career. I was at the federally qualified health center, decided that was looking for something else. I'm like, I'm young, would love to try something else. I'd love to get my hands in whatever fields of pharmacy I'm able to, and was offered the opportunity to become pharmacist in charge for a startup pharmacy. And that was such an incredible opportunity as well, because back in, school, I wanted to own a pharmacy. So from store open to store close, I was running it. I was doing everything required to make that store run, and got to really just see that was, again, something I decided I didn't want to do, but I'm very happy I got to have that experience and fulfill that sort of dream of mine, and confirm, that wasn't exactly for me. So now moving forward, I look at, okay, what do I love about my career so far? And it genuinely was the patients. It was genuinely being able to educate and say, hey, this is all this means. Health is not hard. You just have to try, and you have to be disciplined. And I think taking it from this lofty goal that sometimes I think we look at it as, and being able to just break it down and say, hey, it's okay. I promise you got this. And kind of partner with them, hold their hand, get them through to health outcomes, and being able to see people really living, feeling better has made the whole difference in my journey. And now I say, okay, what's next for me? And I was in clinic. I'm like, all right, I'm seeing 20 people a day, saying the same thing kind of over and over again. What if I said the same thing one time to a group of 500 people or so? How much more impact could I have? And so I've moved my career into being a speaker and advocate for wellness and health. And that's been a really pleasant and exciting opportunity for me so far.
I love that. And you're backing it up. It's you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, and you're growing as a communicator. And so when I think of pharmacists, and number one, you have to keep our patients safe. Number two, you have to educate. Number three, you have to communicate. You're hitting all of those hits, all of those buttons. You got yourself some major press through a relationship or an interview with iHeartRadio, and I was so impressed with this. Like that, like our pharmacists out there, our entrepreneurial pharmacists out there, they have to understand that marketing yourself and public relations and taking opportunity in your community to let news organizations know what you do. This ties back to public health issues. This ties back to the lack of physician access, where a pharmacist could pick up the slack. It has to do with immunization clinics. It has to do with birth control clinics and birth control support that could easily come from pharmacists that want to dial into that. And then now we're talking about something that you and I that's like a no duh for us. But then you're taking your experience and the fact that you're a Black American professional with an MBA, for goodness sakes, and in PharmD. And now you're putting yourself into these communities that they want to see somebody that is a Black woman in their community. Because unfortunately, I mean, when I say unfortunate, I mean unfortunate that they have to not have access to healthcare, but you showing up is a huge thing. But if you're doing that behind a curtain and no one ever knows anything about you, then you're not going to get a public speaking portfolio per se to be able to take you to the next level. So bravo. I mean, Jordan, just you're setting your young career on fire already. So this is really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I was at the hair salon one time and I was talking to a young lady. She was a nurse and she's like, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a pharmacist." She said, "You're a pharmacist? I thought pharmacists could only be old white dudes." And I was like, "No, there's so many. I know so many that are, of so many different backgrounds." And so I just think me being in this space and using my platform is so crucial because like you said, like being able to get the message across, sometimes it matters who's saying it. I can say something to, my boyfriend and he's going to hear it differently from another male than he would from me. I could say something to a student and they'll hear it differently than if you said it. And it just really matters sometimes who the message is coming from. And I think once we start allowing more people to have a voice and say something and get to the table, we're going to start seeing a lot of changes across the board because now everybody is invited and everybody can make a difference. And then we're going to start seeing numbers improve drastically.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out the word ageism because I'm kind of jealous because when I was your age, I don't even know, oh my goodness, like internet was just like starting in 1999, 2001-ish, 2003-ish. I didn't get into pharmacy until 2004. There was very little social media. I think we were more into blogging than anything. I started the very first podcast in pharmacy in 2009, and then slowly things started to come out. But now with your understanding of communication and using social media and using platforms and using your speaking engagements, like you have such an advantage to kind of accelerate things that some of our older team members like me in pharmacy, have waited for some of this tech to come out. But talk to me about that for a second. How are you connecting with the targets that you're after for exposure on what you're talking about? What's your favorite platform right now?
I think my favorite to use is Instagram. My favorite for reach is LinkedIn because I was really heavy on LinkedIn like 2023, 24, and I have had a rough year and haven't really been posting. But when I see people come up to me nonstop, like, "You're doing big things, you're doing so amazing," and I'm like, "I haven't posted in like 6 months." So I really love that because it's like even things that are, have been a while back, or I might post like, once every so often this past year or so. People are still so like they're able to see it, and that visual is so impactful because it's like I feel like I kind of fell off the face of the earth a little bit for a while there, and people are still coming up to me and saying how much they're proud of me and things of that nature. So LinkedIn is immaculate for just kind of getting your message out there, for it staying for a while. Like I said, that longevity is just, it makes a difference. And then, put a picture on it, make it engaging, add some hashtags, things like that, I think really help with reach. As far as Instagram though, like I need to get off of Instagram because I scroll. I know it's not good, but that's kind of like, I don't know, we all scroll. It's fine.
We do, but I want to come back to that because I don't know, like I as soon as I get here's my story. I'm going to complain to you for a second. So Twitter back in the day was almost more powerful me than even LinkedIn. Like it was so good. Like I had a community. We had a community called RX Chat. We had another community called Twitter RX. Now it was bastardized because when Elon changed the name to X, now if you put hashtag Twitter RX, it just brings up everybody's crap. Whereas back in the day, Jordan, I could put in hashtag TwitterRX and get 100% participation of pharmacists, pharmacy people. I mean, it was amazing. So that's changed. So then right now, I feel like it's the rise of Instagram for us, at least in our social media, but that's still second to LinkedIn, like you said, because I completely agree with you that LinkedIn for me and for our platform as well is the best for connecting me with other pharmacy professionals because that's who I'm after.
Yeah, definitely. And I think LinkedIn from a professional standpoint for sure, but I will say you have to give Instagram its credit. Instagram and TikTok, I think, are really impactful. I think for me, I'll just break it down. LinkedIn, professional, Instagram, TikTok, if I want to reach an audience that I'm trying to educate, I feel like it's easier there. And then YouTube, when I have things about pharmacy students or that I want to share. So like I shared my NAPLEX journey on YouTube, and I still get people to this day like, thank you for making this video, wanting to connect, things like that. So it really just depends on what your message is, what you're trying to share. But I really think that LinkedIn is a fantastic place to start.
It really is. And like I said, I think it's expected that we have another layer of professionalism that tries to keep out. I see a couple people that have swayed a little bit. Maybe they're posting about their dog and stuff like that, but I try to keep it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sharing like that because we're all human, but I do try to keep it more business driven and business tech because if I want to see dogs and my favorite dog's a corgi because I have two corgis. So if I want to see corgis, I'll go to Facebook and look for corgis.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it has a purpose, and I agree that I kind of would love for it to stay kind of that professional tone just because it just kind of crowds out a lot of the noise sometimes that you get with some of the other platforms.
Yeah, and your LinkedIn, just a shout out to our pharmacists out there who are not exercising LinkedIn. If you want an example of how to build a profile, a professional profile outlining someone's positioning and what they're doing, and I think every professional in every pharmacist, every technician, anybody really in any facet of business, take a look at Dr. Jordan Nordy's LinkedIn, Jordyn for those that are driving and you can't see your screen. I'm going to have Dr. Nordy's contact information, her LinkedIn profile inside the show notes. So if you are driving or walking, don't worry about it. Just get saved somewhere and you can look her up. And then I also want to go over the two styles. I want to show this as an example. I'm putting you on the spot, Jordan, but this is a good exercise. So if we jump over to Instagram, this is cool that we get the professional side of Jordan on LinkedIn, and then we get the style and the life, the life traveling. And by the way, if you're a brand and you want to become a brand and you want to become a speaker, I think there's a need for both of those. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a need for both. One of the things that I've talked to different like social media strategists and things, and just identifying what's most important to share on my social media and which platform do I create a new page, all of those things. But as a brand, go with the platform, things that I've learned, little tidbits, go with the platform that has the most followers because that's what people are reaching out for, and make this my speaker page. Make sure that it's professional, make sure that I'm sharing good content, make sure that it's engaging, using hashtags and sharing my messaging. So I think both have a place. I think if a person wants to focus on branding, then it's really important that you make a page around your branding, around who you are. If you want to share about your dog and all of those things, your travels, if they're not part of your brand, then put them on a separate page, or use a different platform like Facebook or something like that, so that your friends and family to connect with them. But one thing that I will say too is I've always struggled because I'm a multifaceted person, like many of us are, right? And so trying to identify what parts of this do I share. But I think too, it's so funny. People like Instagram is a very aesthetic place. So have to be very like polished and clean and great quality on your footage and pictures and all of that. So if you're thinking about a brand and posting yourself as a brand, all of those things really do matter, especially if you're going to use Instagram. I think the one thing I like about LinkedIn as well is you don't have to be as cut and clean. You just have to be professional. There is a difference. I feel like it would take me a little while to explain that, but I think that there's space for both. Just make sure whatever you're posting represents you well and presents you for whatever opportunities you're looking for.
Yeah, and you and I are talking before we recorded. Make sure that you're doing two things. One, you're giving value to your network in some sort. And number two, you're marketing yourself, because you have to keep putting content out there to stay relevant, stay connected. And if you're building themes, especially in your case, you have special things that are going on. You have your speaking engagements that are coming up. You might have a workshop that's talking about disparities in healthcare or whatever it is. So each of those are almost like a separate campaign. And I could see the campaigns living a little better on LinkedIn. And then you back that up with an Instagram that says, oh, here's my travels to this thing. Whereas it's most like we get to follow you more as a down-to-earth person versus being Dr. Nordy, MBA per se, where you're a little bit more like structured. So I'm always, that's the way I am with my stuff. Like if you want to know me as the dad of 4 daughters and my corgis and stuff, then you're going to go to Facebook. But if you want to see what we're doing in the profession, you're going to go definitely to LinkedIn. Although Pharmacy Podcast Network's Instagram is mostly about our client stuff and our hosts. Like it's not really about us. It's more about you and what you're doing, because that's kind of like our business model. But I am so excited for you. I want to say that we want you back on TWIRx when you are doing other things. We also want to connect you with maybe some new pharmacy schools, just to give the P3, P4s some heads up of think about, from your perspective, you could give them so much head start of things that you could tell them now to start thinking about that you were thinking about, 2 years after that. And giving them a head start is huge. We spend time with WVU School of Pharmacy and hopefully Pitt and Duquesne in 2026. But those are my close schools to Pittsburgh. And I love talking with the future of our profession and saying, don't do this, or definitely do this, or do that. And then you just get to dial them in where they're focused faster.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's so important. It's so key because there's so much you have to learn as a student just on the pharmacology side, that when it comes to some of those people skills, the networking, the how to get a job, like even, I've done a little bit of job searching here and there, and I'm applying on job boards. And I realized I'm like, I've actually never gotten a job by applying on a job board. It's always been connections. It's always been relationships. And so I think that that's so important, but we don't always learn that in school. Like they might have networking opportunities, but if you're shy and a little awkward and don't really know how to, spark up a conversation, and I struggled with that. That's something I had to learn for sure. That can be really difficult, and no one really like tells you how to do it. It's just kind of like go and have a couple questions ready and just figure it out yourself. And it's like, okay, I guess I could do that. But I think I would love to have conversations around that, because students are trying to figure it out, but sometimes it can be really lonely. And pharmacy school, you're like, head down, get through the books, understand, pass my exam, move on. You're like, let's go, next thing, next thing, next thing. So yeah.
All right. So what's up next for you? Tell our listeners, do you have any speaking engagements coming up? Do you have any projects that you're working on? I'm going to use this interview to shout you out so that you can get more networking through it, through LinkedIn or through even Instagram, because we have your handle now. But share with the listeners what's up next.
Definitely book me, Dr. Jordan. Would love to come and be on a stage, or even host a workshop for anyone that is looking for just whether it be confidence in branding or networking or strategizing, as well as if you have a dream of mine would be to go to different either like community pharmacies or even, corporate offices, things like that, have discussions around blood pressure. How do we take it from this big, scary diagnosis to something that's easily manageable? Those are conversations that I have had ad nauseum, but really love and willing to actually do that for anybody that is willing to host me. Next would also be different conferences, association meetings, things like that. So that is the space I'm seeing. I have a little bit of that like influencer, if you have a product that you're marketing that you believe in, it's something that I'm very willing to, use my platform to share. And we can have discussions about that as well. So sort of that influencer speaker kind of lane is where I'm at. But really just looking to have deeper connections, help people understand how to get ahead in some ways, but then also really that education on the healthcare side.
That's awesome. Well, promise that you're going to come back. Bring somebody with you. Let's dig into a subject. Maybe, like I said, there's subjects that we desperately need pharmacist oversight on. And, that's why we have 40 plus different shows on the network, is because there's pharmacists out there who are brilliant and they're really digging deep into one specific aspect of the business of healthcare and the business of pharmacy care. And communications falls in line with 100% of that. So you being out there speaking and marketing yourself, but I almost feel like you're tripling up or doubling up on exposure. It's not only your career, but it's also the messaging that you're pulling with you, and how articulate and being able to like position and strategize too of how the dominoes fall.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'm always excited to just use my platform to help, someone else get to the next level or, grow their brand or business. If that's something that I can do, definitely, excited to be able to do that. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to have you back on TWIRx. Hope you have a good weekend. Are you a NFL watcher at all for this weekend's games?
I am not. I heard the Chiefs did horribly recently. I have a couple people that are Ravens and Steelers fans. They also are not doing very well. So I'm kind of staying out of it this season. I feel like the chips and dominoes are falling in very different places than, in previous years.
Had a guest last week on TWIRx, and I said to her, "So do you follow any football, whatever?" She goes, "I don't really follow football, but I love going to the parties because they have good treats there." And I'm like, listen, at least that's honest. I mean, because I'm the same way. If I go to a football party, I hope there's good food and something to drink there.
Yeah, give me a good time. I'll go and cheer with the best of them. I really don't have a team, so I'm like, whoever you tell me we're rooting for, go team.
And I'll make you an honorary Steeler fan then.
Oh, my dad's a Steeler fan. So yeah, already.
Sign. All right, Jordan, thank you so much for being on TWIRx.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Hey, we'll be right back with more